You know that feeling when you're scrolling through endless coffee machine options, trying to picture how each one would actually sit on your kitchen counter and whether it will survive the morning rush? I get that hesitation, especially when a sleek, silver unit like the Bosch 800 series promises restaurant-grade espresso at home. But you've got to wonder if you're really getting a machine that fits into your daily routine or just another gadget that ends up gathering dust. If you're on the fence, think about the cost of a daily CAF habit versus the upfront price of a machine that could replace it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down what the Bosch 800 series actually does for you, and more importantly, when it makes sense to press buy and when you might want to keep scrolling. First off, the biggest selling point is the simplify-a-thone coffee brewing promise. Bosch has taken the typical manual grind, tamp, and brew sequence and wrapped it into a single button press. The machine houses a built-in grinder, so you can go from whole bean to espresso without ever pulling out a separate grinder. In practice, that means you can pop a handful of beans into the hopper, choose your strength, and the machine grinds, doses, and extracts in under a minute. For someone who loves the ritual but hates the time sink, that's a real convenience. The ultimate personalization feature is where the machine starts to feel more like a customizable kitchen assistant than a one-size-fits-all appliance. Through the control panel you can adjust the coffee strength, water volume, and even the temperature for each cup. There's a small memory function that stores up to 5 favorite profiles, so if you're the type who likes a bold double shot in the morning and a milder lungo after lunch, you can switch with a quick tap. I tested this by setting a strong start profile for a 30-second espresso and a smooth wind-down profile for a 200 milliliters lungo. The machine remembered both settings without any extra steps, which is handy if your household has varied taste buds. Now, the remote brewing claim is worth unpacking. The Bosch 800 series connects to a dedicated app that lets you start a brew from another room. In a real-world scenario, imagine you're still in bed, checking emails, and you press brew on your phone. By the time you shuffle to the kitchen, the espresso is ready. For people who value that extra few minutes of sleep or who have a multi-person household where someone else might want coffee before you're even up, the remote feature can be a genuine time saver. That said, the app does require a stable Wi-Fi connection. I noticed a slight delay on a congested network, so if your home internet is spotty, you might find the remote function more frustrating than helpful. Maintenance is another area where the machine tries to stand out. The easy-to-maintain tagline isn't just marketing fluff. Bosch includes a descaling program that runs automatically after a set number of brews, and the drip tray and used coffee container pop out with a single lever. The grinder can be brushed clean without dismantling the whole unit, which is a relief if you're not a fan of disassembling appliances. In my week-long trial, I ran the automatic descaling cycle twice, and the machine reported completion without any error messages. The only downside was the water tank size. At roughly 1.5 liters it requires refilling every couple of days for a small family, which isn't a deal-breaker but something to keep in mind if you drink a lot of coffee. Who should seriously consider the Bosch 800 series? If you're a coffee enthusiast who enjoys tweaking variables but doesn't want to manage separate grinders, tampers, and frothers, this is a solid all-in-one. It shines for households with multiple coffee drinkers because of the programmable profiles and remote start. It also makes sense for anyone who values a clean countertop. The machine consolidates grinding, brewing, and milk frothing, if you add the optional milk system, into a single footprint. The silver finish is understated enough to blend with most kitchen decor without screaming gadget. On the flip side, there are buyers who should probably pass. If you're looking for a pure espresso barista experience with the ability to hand tamp and fine-tune pressure, a semi-automatic machine will give you more control. Also, if your budget is tight, the Bosch 800 series sits in a mid to high price range, and the value really comes from the convenience factor rather than raw performance. Finally, if you don't have reliable Wi-Fi or you're not interested in app integration, the remote brewing feature ends up being a gimmick you'll never use. Let's talk about practical strengths in everyday use. The speed of the brew cycle is impressive. I could get a double shot in about 45 seconds, which is comparable to many high-end machines. The grind adjustment is intuitive. Turning the knob a half-click changes the coarseness enough to notice a difference in flavor without overcomplicating the process. The built-in milk frother, when paired with the optional kit, produces a decent microfoam for lattes.